Hello. Good evening, everybody. Do I have your attention? Good evening, Shumo. I can see you and I can hear you. So all is well with my eyes and ears and the world. May I request all of you to keep your mobiles on silent? The safety committee chairman, Mr. Rishad Chana, who sits here. Rishad, can we see your hand? He says that there are 6 doors, like an airplane. You can all walk out if there's any problem. We hope there's no such problem. We assure you there's no such problem. No smoking in the hall. Good evening, everybody, and again a warm welcome to all of you. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to Tollygunge Club's annual debate. I take special pleasure in extending a warm welcome to our eminent set of speakers who are seated here, and to Dr. Kunal Sharkar, who will be the moderator for the third edition of the debate. The third edition of the debate is a thought-provoking and a tricky subject. I'm not going to say anything more, which says marriage as an institution has lost its relevance. Now you can all think about it. I'm sure it promises to be an engaging discussion that questions long-held beliefs and our status quo and various perceptions that we may not even think of. The president was saying something today. I can't even think of such things. So it's something like that, to that level. I can assure you that Dr. Vishnupriya Sengupta and the library committee together have done a lot of hard work in conceptualizing this subject and getting good speakers, excellent speakers who are going to give their all this evening. I'm just, please give a warm hand. May I now request all of them to come up. Dr. Jay Rajan Ram, and please come and sit in your places. For the motion, Mr. Navanil Das, Mr. Ritubrato Mukherjee, and Mr. Shayak Chakraborty. And against the motion, we have Dr. Deborshi Bharat, we have Dr. Kaveri Chatterjee, Mr. Keshav Roy, and Ms. Amrita Mukherjee. Thank you. Dr. Sharkar, may I also invite you to the stage. I also request the President to come and say a few words.
It is a pleasure to welcome you all to what is now the third edition of the Tollygunge Club annual debate. A tradition that began with a simple idea that a club such as ours should not only be a place of leisure, but also a place of ideas. Over these past 3 years, this debate has grown into one of the club's most intellectually engaging events. One that brings together thoughtful minds, challenging themes, and a keenly interested audience. This evening is yet another example of that spirit. The motion for tonight's debate, marriage as an institution has lost its relevance, is a bold one. It touches on deep social, emotional, and generational perspectives. It invites us to examine how we relate to tradition, how we evolve, and how we differ, and that makes it the perfect subject for a true debate. We are very grateful to all our speakers for being with us this evening. Thank you to Mr. Shayak Chakraborty, Dr. Jayaranjan Ram, Mr. Ritubrato Mukherjee, and Mr. Navanil Das, Dr. Deborshi Bharat, Dr. Kaveri Chatterjee, Ms. Amrita Mukherjee, and Mr. Keshav Roy for lending your time, your thoughts, and your voice to this platform. Your presence elevates the event and enriches our understanding of the topic at hand. I must also acknowledge with sincere appreciation the presence of Dr. Kunal Sarkar, a name synonymous with clarity, depth, and impact. His role as a moderator has brought a sharp and distinctive character to this debate year after year. A very special thanks must go to Dr. Vishnupriya Sengupta, whose leadership and vision have been at the heart of this initiative from the beginning. Her stewardship of the library committee has not only brought consistency and quality to this event, but has also reaffirmed the role of cultural and intellectual programming with our club's broader identity. And finally, to our members and guests, thank you for being here. Your continued engagement is what sustains events like this and inspires us to do more. I wish you all a stimulating and memorable evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I now request Dr. Vishnupriya Sengupta to take this program forward. Thank you.
Good evening. Is this working? Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening. On behalf of the Tollygunge Club and the Library Subcommittee, I would like to welcome you all to an engaging debate. The theme, as we already know, is marriage as an institution has lost its relevance. It is, of course, of much relevance, as Parthuda pointed out, for all of us in this day and age. Marriage, once upon a time, was associated with Dilli ka laddu. Jo khaye, wo bhi pachtaye. Jo nahi khaye, wo bhi pachtaye. But that notion seems to be changing. That is to say, marriage perhaps still continues to be the Dilli ka laddu, but there is no pachtawa or regret. You may or may not want to marry, but there is no regret either way. Of course, over the next couple of hours, we will know which way the wind blows, and it is for you, the audience, to pronounce the final verdict. And now, I would like to take this opportunity to also thank Telegraph, which is our media partner for this event. And before we move on to the debate, we would like to take a small detour. And I just wanted to call out that over the past 2 years, we have, as a library subcommittee, been organizing a sale of pre-owned books. And all of you have contributed very generously to that effort by donating books and also buying some of these second-hand books. Now, we have actually raised an amount of rupees 45,000, which we would like to donate to Teach for India. Some of you would be aware that Teach for India is an NGO which works for the holistic education of children from lesser income groups. And we are donating this amount for a particular project that they are doing. It's called Project North Star, which is directed at the holistic development of children, so as to give them a conducive environment for developing and for blooming. So may I please call upon stage Mr. Gaurav Dutt, who is the City Director of Teach for India, and may I request our President to hand over the check to Gaurav Dutt. And with that, now we move on to the moment that all of us have been waiting for. And of course, Dr. Kunal Sarkar has already been introduced by our CEO. He calls himself these days a plumber of the heart and a debater. So that is what I will refer to him as. And I would now like to hand it over to Dr. Sarkar to take it on from here and introduce the speakers. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thanks so much. I think I've been getting some cryptic signals from members of the press that we need to do the group photograph. please let's do it and get on with proceedings. Thanks.
May I request our President, Mr. Parthasarathi Borbon, to please felicitate Dr. Kunal Sarkar. And now, may I request Parthada to felicitate Dr. Sarkar.
All the best, ma'am.
Yeah. May I request Parthada to felicitate Mr. Shayuk Chakraborty. And now Dr. Jai Ranjan Ram, Mr. Ritubroto Mukherjee, Mr. Nobunil Das, better known as Neil, Mr. Keshav Roy, we all know him, he's the Dr. Kaberi Chatterjee, Dr. Deborshi Dotto, Bharat, sorry, my bad, and Ms. Amrita Mukherjee. Thank you. Over to you, Kunalda.
Thank you. Vishnupriya Parthoda, thanks ever so much. I was living in a realm of misconception, thinking that Vishnupriya was a friend for a very long time. And over the past few months, I tried my very best to work her out of this motion, but I failed, right? Because this motion, in the recent past, in different languages, has been debated a few times. And on one of the last occasions, the hall was absolutely full, just like this evening. Most of the audience came in as couples and departed singly, right? And just as a precautionary measure, I have a backup mode of transport this evening because I'm not entirely sure that what will be the outcome after we worked our way through the various myriad logic of social turbulence. Now, this is a topic which I thought, for the purposes of law and order in the very beginning, that the audience, according to their preconceived notion, should be quarantined into different segments. But somehow, Tolly Club was not in agreement with that plan at all, because they said COVID has been a long time away, so let us not relapse into social distancing for the sake of debating. Fair enough, that was a point well made. Having said that, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know of any other committee who works harder to get a debate together than your committee. And Vishnupriya and her team members, well done again. Now, I will be giving brief introductions of each speaker as they came, because Vishnupriya has given me the speaker profiles. And after I have read through the 8 profiles, I have lapsed into serious inferiority complex as to what a perfect wastage of my time on earth I have done for a good part of last few decades. And hence, I will keep it brief, because if I read through all the introductions, not only would it consume the evening, but I would need emergency assistance of Jai Ranjan Ram, before the evening was over. But let us keep things into perspective, each of them brilliant people from their own domain. Now, we've lived through recent times of conflict. some people applying sindoors and some people rubbing them off. We've been through times when suddenly bunker busters became the buzzword. But all missiles and projectiles thrown this evening will be entirely verbal. Because when I was young, we used to say at the beginning of the debate, myself and somebody who we dearly miss this evening, Dr. Shundip Chatterjee, we debated together for almost a quarter of a century. And Shundip and I used to say in the beginning that we must promote parliamentary debate. And over the last few years, we've really changed our opinion, because depending on how the parliament debates these days, we should behave exactly in a way the parliament doesn't. So, the first and foremost prerequisite for a debate is having a thoroughly incorruptible timekeeper, which is very hard in this state, this day and age, because starting from OMR sheets to whatever we have, even the oxygen we breathe is prone to corruption this evening. But after searching high and low, the club committee has unearthed Prosenjit. And Prosenjit, whom we are told, is absolutely incorruptible, though I see some of the speakers were whispering in his ears, which I am assured is entirely social. But I'm sure I'll be keeping a second track. I think I won't. But Prosenjit will be keeping time. A very simple format. And in that simple format, each one of our speakers would have spoken for 8 minutes. Prosenjit, will you give them a warning at 7?
Yes, I will.
They will, okay. So, and I'm told that there are certain sort of AI equipment by the wings which will physically extricate you from the podium if you do not evacuate, if you do not evacuate by the end of 8 minutes. And you know, 8 minutes is a very long time in current civilization when our attention span is something like 20 seconds, right? And I'm sure by the end of 4 minutes, most of them would be fiddling with their cell phones by the end of 4 minutes. So try to be brief, succinct, to the point. And again, please do not indulge anything in which the Indian Parliament in general and West Bengal Assembly in particular indulges in. And definitely do not be inspired. We have a word in Bangla called Anuprerana nowadays. And do not get inspired by some of the political vocabulary that is floating around. And let's try to keep ourselves within the syntaxes, the phrases, the aphorisms, which has been approved in civilized society, and I'm sure all of you will. Ladies and gentlemen, this House believes that marriage as an institution has lost its relevance. Is there something to debate about it? I'm sure there is. And our speakers will tell us for all of 8 minutes. And after they have spoken, we will invite 2 of you to come up. I've been auctioning the slots. The prices are low at the moment. I'm keeping a tab on my WhatsApp, and depending upon how these are the days of auctioning and Dream 11 and Dream 12. So depending upon how the stakes are going up on my WhatsApp, I will ask 2 of the speakers from the floor. After the speaking round, they will have 2 minutes of rebuttal, sat from where they are, and then this House, which has responded so sincerely to this evening's program, at least 2 of you to come and share your opinion, because this is what a debate is all about. We will have a brief summing up, and at the end of it all, this House decides and votes on the motion. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Tolly Club, Library Committee, well done. And you have been fantastic as a club audience to have responded so gallantly to the call of a debate on a Sunday evening. And in that note, this House begins to debate that in the opinion of the House, marriage as an institution has lost its relevance. The order of speakers, I have had nothing to do with it. It's completely decided by themselves. And the first speaker for the motion proposing, one of the youngest, sharpest, and the most eloquent legal and debating voices of the city, Shayok Chakraborty. Shayok, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, sir. I am very pleased to come before this gathering to propose the motion that marriage as an institution has lost its relevance. Now, to understand what I'm saying, let us make one thing very clear. We speak on the current context. We speak of trends as they exist today. We do not speak of what has been or what it might have been before, but what is current. And over the course of this debate, our speakers shall bring forward certain points on which we shall try to convince you of the validity of our stance. We will talk about how the historical context of marriage has changed in time, and that context is no longer relevant owing to changing social and economic realities. We will talk about how economic dependency is obsolete, and that no longer plays a factor in importance of the institution of marriage. We will talk about the decline of traditional gender roles and how today it's no longer necessary for a woman to be a mother and for a man to be the provider, and how the woman has to manage the home and the man has to go out and gather resources. Therefore, declining the institution of marriage. We will also talk about the increasing delay in age of marriage, and how today more and more people are choosing to remain single and are choosing to abandon the institution of marriage altogether. We will also talk about how Hello? Yeah, I think this is better. I'll talk about how individual freedoms have become more important over the years. We will also talk about how today people choose to focus on self-realization and choose to improve themselves rather than bind themselves in a commitment which can be quite stifling. We will also talk about how alternative relationship structures have evolved. And today, it's not only marriage that signals commitment towards a partner. And we will also talk about the reduced stigma in today's society towards such alternative. We'll also talk about emotional and financial burdens and how this has changed over the years. Now, coming to my constructive points, what I'd like to tell you is that it's quite ironic in a way that I have been brought forward to propose this motion as the first speaker. I am myself unmarried, to the mortification of my parents, and I do not intend to settle into marriage just because it is a societal expectation. Because at this point, in history, we are uniquely placed to see that marriage is primarily a social requirement. It is something imposed by society as being something that you must do in order to continue residing in society. That was the historical context of marriage. In fact, marriage was seen as a societal permission to procreate. That importance has gone down. Today, it is no longer needed for you to be married in order to commit to a partner. And that has increasingly become the case, especially with the increasing acceptance of alternative lifestyles. Alternative in the sense, I'm saying that the LGBT community. As the LGBT community continues in acceptance, we accept that people can be in love in spite of not being married. And that is the entire point, ladies and gentlemen. Marriage was never an indicator of love. It was simply a societal permission to reside together and cohabit. Now, as we increasingly move towards a society where we do not require societal accordance to procreate and to live in cohabitation with another, we have increasingly come down with the institution of marriage's relevance. Marriage by itself is not a harm, but what marriage represents is the harm. Marriage represents a society which is quite stifling. Marriage is the result of a society which tends to intervene in whatever a person chooses to do with his or her life. And as society progresses, and as we evolve in our means of residing in the world today, marriage is increasingly losing its relevance as an institution. Today, even the courts recognize live-in relationships and afford accordingly protections to such live-in relationships. So, if such a thing is there, if even the law and the courts, which are notoriously alien to change and are very hesitant of something like live-in relationships, can society truly be far behind? We find increasingly that this acceptance of a lifestyle without marriage is being accepted, and thus it is leading to the decline of marriage as an institution. I think I heard my time. Do I have? Okay, yeah. I thought I heard something. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that today I am not required to be married to commit to a partner. If there is somebody for me, I do not need the permission of society to condone me living with my partner and committing to my partner. Thus, marriage is not required today. Marriage was required when there was a societal taboo against such activities, when there was a societal prohibition on cohabiting with a partner with whom you have not gotten the social sanction of marriage. That social stigma has gone down. And with that social stigma going down, we have found that people are choosing not to get married. And one of the other reasons, predominant reasons for marriage, was of social sanction for childbearing or child rearing. And as divorce rates have gone up, and as single parenthood increases, we find that that stigma has also gone down. Today, there are a lot of people who are double income, no kids, which is basically to both spouses are earning and they have choose to remain childless. So that requirement of being married in order to have children is gone. So, and also it is now acceptable to be in a committed relationship without having children. Thus, the institution of marriage, which was there, is no longer required for these things to happen. And as a result, we have come to a point in our society where we can look past these traditional requirements and move towards individualism and more increasing individual choices to opt out of these societal structures and these societal strictures. We find that increasingly people choose to not have to have society recognize what they feel and have chosen to prioritize their individual selves above what the society demands that we do. And with that, I'm very proud to propose.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Very well spoken, in spite of the slight technical hitches. It's absolute pity that in my time we did not have such user-friendly lawyers to consult, you know. But what's the use of looking back and recriminating now? The deed is done, the die is cast. Shayok, you've come into our lives about a few decades too late. Anyway, there is always hope when we are recycled again, you know. It is said that about 9,500 years ago, when the hunters and gatherers settled into an agricultural form of life, from agriculture there were two principal derivatives. One was marriage and the other was diabetes. Right. So that is what the agricultural way of life gave through anthropology of evolution for decades to come. Now Shayok has set the rules. He has pushed marriage totally into the casket of obsolescence, and the field is set for the opposition to take on Shayok head on. And who else than a person who has dealt in depth and detail from the world of drama and creative arts, who's an expert on the bard who married somebody who was 8 years his senior in a state of pregnancy. It is well known that William Shakespeare gave much of his time to London and Globe Theatre, whilst his dear wife was hundreds of miles away in Stratford-on-Avon, and because of the distance, some people say that Shakespeare was able to maintain his sanity. And on that note, a person who comes from the world of drama, from the world of Shakespeare, from the world of creative arts, Mr. Keshav Roy. Keshav, the floor is yours.
Good evening. So, good evening, Honorable Chair, learned members of the House, and my well-meaning but clearly mistaken opponents, who I commend for bravely attempting to dismantle an institution that has survived empires, revolutions, plagues, patriarchs, polygamy, and even in-laws. I must congratulate you for bravely arguing against the very reason most people in this room exist. Let's address the elephant in the room, ladies and gentlemen, or in the case of my opposition, the lonely cat on the couch. I'd like to begin not with bells and roses and cellos, but with irony and intellect. Marriage is unnecessary, my opponents will say. Well, so are birthday cakes, and so is Shakespeare, and so is the theory of relativity. We don't need them to survive, but we keep them around anyway. Why? Because they help enrich lives. They deepen lives. They make us more human. Marriage is not about necessity, it's about meaning. And a meaningful life isn't just built on what we need. Rather, it's built on what we choose to value. Love, commitment, the poetry of choosing one person 1,000 times over, the quiet beauty of growing old with someone who can still laugh at your worst jokes. No, marriage is obsolete, my opponents will say. Why? Because people don't stay married anymore. Well, that's like saying libraries are irrelevant because some people will return their books late. By logic, democracy, therefore, is irrelevant because some politicians exist. But what about families? You don't need marriage to start a family, my opponents will say. No, of course you don't. But neither do you need a driving license to crash your car, but society prefers it. If marriage is outdated, then why is Shadi.com still in business and hasn't been renamed, hey bro, let's hang out together tomorrow for a while.com? If marriage is so irrelevant, you know, why do we still cry during weddings and not so much during the tax filing season? They will argue that people are getting married much later nowadays, as if deferred commitment is a sign of diminished relevance. No, it suggests discernment. Nobody abandons dessert just because we're not hungry anymore. We wait for cheesecake. And yes, marriage is hard. And so is calculus. And so is reverse parking. And so is trying to interpret James Joyce. We don't fling things out of the window just because they require work. We improve on them. We grow with them. That's what relevant institutions do. And now for my opponent's favorite line. Marriage is outdated, they will say. No, ladies and gentlemen, marriage is not outdated, it's evolving. It's far more inclusive today than ever before. Interfaith, intercultural, same-sex unions have found profound meaning within the modern understanding of marriage. It's no longer about rigid gender roles and archaic customs. It's about partnership. And ladies and gentlemen, marriage isn't a prison unless you go into it with a pair of handcuffs and an inflated ego. It's a platform for growth. A space where two people become better, not in spite of each other, but because of each other. Let's not confuse cynicism with intelligence. It's easy to mock something from the outside, but it takes a lot of courage to build something that lasts. Marriage is a bureaucratic trap, my opponents would say. A patriarchal contract, an archaic ritual involving awkward speeches and overpriced cakes and an oversized uncle who insists on dancing. They will argue that in the modern world of independent lives, we've outgrown marriage, like we've outgrown the dial-up internet and landlines. How brave, how bold, how deeply and spectacularly mistaken, because, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is far more nuanced. It's far more enduring. It's perhaps the only institution that anchors us in a drifting world. Marriage is not a cage, it's a garden. And yes, it requires watering and weeding and the occasional pruning of the pride, but the fruits are real and rare. Imagine, in contrast, ladies and gentlemen, a world without marriage. I'm sure my learned opponents would love to live in a society where no one commits. No one says, I'll stay with you through aging and illness, through beauty and boredom, through the slow erosion of youth. In a world where everyone is perennially and perpetually available, romantically rootless, drifting from one situationship to another, full of charm, but no soul, no roots, no real story. Mr. Chakraborty's speech, short of reminding me of a soda bottle, 1% content, 99% gas, is essentially a sleek postmodern Tinder profile, full of flair, no substance, full of aesthetics, no anchor. In committing to one person, you don't reduce life, ladies and gentlemen, you deepen it. You discover layers of love that are invisible to the casual observer. You become more compassionate, more patient, more self-aware. In loving one person deeply over time, you discover the subtle geometry of devotion, where your growth is entangled with theirs, and your lives become not just parallel to each other, but profoundly intersected. What app can replicate that? The next time somebody says marriage is outdated, ladies and gentlemen, ask them, what are they going to replace it with? Another dating app? Another self-help book on unconscious coupling? Another fleeting thrill that dissipates long before sunrise? And so, till such time that my opponents can offer something a little more stable, substantial, something a little more transformational, that one enduring vow between two committed souls, marriage remains just not relevant, it remains essential. At least it remains a little more reliable than that other fellow who said he needed a little more time and then took 13 years. At least a little more well documented than your ex-boyfriend who brought his mother along with him on your second date. Who says we need marriage? We've got love without rules, we've got sex without commitment, we've got living together without paperwork, and freedom is wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. But it's not the same as fulfillment. A society that worships choice often forgets the sacredness of choosing one thing deeply. It's about saying yes to one person in a world that just cannot stop saying maybe to 300 strangers. It's about giving that one person your freedom and then realizing in the end that you never lost it at all. It's about coming back home no matter how far the world has taken you. I hope I've given you enough to convince you that it is relevant. You don't marry the person you can live with. You marry the person you cannot live without. And with that, wishing you all long-lasting happy marriages, especially my opponents. God bless.
Keshav, you indeed have, you know, and if the speaking podium would be replaced by a pulpit, you know, Keshav would have done it proud, because he has spoken absolutely, unconcealingly about loyalty. At times, you know, I don't know how many of you have subscribed to the royalty program of India's largest, or rather the only surviving airline right now. The trouble is, it asks for loyalty without defining the benefits. And I think that is probably what rest of the evening will roll on to be. and wonderful. You know, he's brought democracy into it. And I think where Keshav has established the debate is on two pedestals. One is essential and the second is evolving. And who knows, the evolving mind, the evolving society, the evolving contradictions in our inner selves better than one of the leading healers of the minds of the city. My dear friend, I never ever get onto his wrong side because help is always needed. My dear friend, Joy Ranjan, Dr. Joy Ranjan Ram. Joy, thanks.
Thank you, Kunalda. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I must admit I have never seen Mr. Roy's any of his drama, but I promise. But after this theatrics, I will see each and every one of your plays, which was absolutely brilliant on theatrics. But as we will show, it was very, very flimsy on logic. You know. I'm hugely conflicted about coming here today, not because my wife is present, but two of the things which provide me with bread and butter and employment and helps me to pay my EMIs begins with M, marriage and mobile phones. You know, the mobile phone use in children gives me a lot of patience, and people stuck in unhappy marriages gives me clients. So I'm committing a heresy, but I will continue to do so. You know, most of you know that I work as a psychiatrist in the city, and I will begin with a personal anecdote which, I remembered when I was preparing and thinking about this speech. About 4 months ago, I met a 27-year-old medical postgraduate trainee who is studying in a reputed teaching institution in Kolkata. She had come alone and she was profoundly depressed and suicidal. The key stress point for her and why she was depressed was her inability to convince her parents that
Joy,
she was...
just a sec. Could you please move closer to the microphone a bit?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So the key stress point for her was that she was unable to convince her parents that she was in love and she would like to marry someone. But the main point of objection was that the boy belonged to another religious group. So, you know, during this conversation, I spent a lot of time trying for various approaches, strategies, and even suggested whether she would come along with her parents so that I could have a conversation with them, because she was absolutely convinced that she will not marry anyone else. This lady doctor, told me that the parents were intransigent. She was accused of sullying the family's honor, the izzat. She was even accused of causing her mother's blood pressure fluctuation, her father's cardiac disease, and therefore, you know, in no uncertain terms that she was told that she has to marry someone suitable from within her community and within her caste. Now, as you all will be aware, this is not an isolated incident. Each one of you who are present here know that this is happening for centuries in India and this institution of marriage has become extremely oppressive. The point I'm trying to make today, and we are trying to make today, that this is not something which has happened for centuries. The incident I told you is happening to an educated, emancipated woman in urban India in 2025. Now, many of you would say that, you know, this is an isolated incident, you know, and why are you broadly generalizing, you know, to impress everyone, a single incident which has happened. But essentially what it did, it surveyed 1 million households in India and looked to 29 adult women, uh, adolescent and adult women in the age group of 15 to 29, 36% of the global suicides which occurred, 36% in this age group were Indian women. And an overwhelming proportion of these women were married. So therefore, you will realize this whole, rose and petal and this Instagram view which Mr. Roy proposes of having married and making reels is a complete sham. Complete sham. It causes death, and remember, all these deaths are avoidable deaths. The causes of death are domestic violence, sexual violence, dowry deaths, and marital rape is something which we can't even talk about, but is sickeningly common in our society. So therefore, you need to really consider whether marriage is an important institution in this day and age. Let me briefly shift to another group. I see a large number of women. For all mental health practitioners, they would know that about 2 to 3 times more women come to us with anxiety and depression, and majority of them are locked in this loveless, companionship-less marriages. I firmly believe that majority of the Indian couples are actually divorced, but they don't acknowledge it. The other point is, many of you would say that, oh, what about children? Children grow up in this lovely marriages where there's 2 partners. Absolutely true. But research has shown consistently that children in unhappy marriages are extremely emotionally unhealthy compared to children being brought up in couples who are cohabiting. And globally everywhere in the world, in Sweden, France, UK, Japan, marriage rate is coming down. So I believe that the world or the time has now come to place marriage in obsolescence. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyranjan. Thank you. You make very serious, very somber, and very compelling points. Your reference to the Lancet reminds us of the 80s publications in the British Medical Journal, not from a doctor or plumber like ourselves, but a publication that came from the heart of Kolkata, from Protichi's Trust, from Dr. Amartya Sen, and the header of that publication was, "Where has all the women gone?" And what it presently dealt with is in the 80s, for the first time, Protichi's Trust highlighted the state of affairs with female feticide in India. What else does marriage do to the female, to the women? In a few days' time, we will be stepping into Doctor's Day. At the level when women get into medicine, 120,000 youngsters will be taken into medicine every year. And at the intake level, you have 57 to 60% of the entrants are women. Through their 5-year travails and journeys, Many of them, probably a great majority, has gone into social imprisonment. And when they come out of the system, you only find 30 to 35% of the practicing doctors are women. So we, in our professional domain, do see an attrition that we as a society, who are so taken aback by the exams, by the fees, by the money, by the question paper and the scams, that right under our very noses, a great act of gender inequality is going on. And I think at some stage, we'll also wake up to this. Ladies and gentlemen, not many teachers can boast of coming from an institution from which both Subhash Chandra Bose and Swami Vivekananda has passed through. And not many people are there in the audience who deal between poetry, literature, and billiards. And on that note, we welcome, who else but Kaveri Chatterjee. Now, Kaveri was a bit anxious whether the microphone is working or not. Kaveri, just test it out.
Hello, okay. We've been talking about...
Please adjust the microphone.
Hello. Can you hear me?
That's better, yeah.
Am I audible? Suddenly it feels like I'm in class. That's how I begin. Am I audible?
You are, yes.
So,
you are not in class and don't be too strict. Okay, please, make a start.
Respected moderator, my friends for the motion, my friends against the motion, and the august audience. All of these people over here are saying that marriage is not necessary and are definitely waiting for the next reception they will attend, maybe in the far pavilions. Okay. So the number of receptions that happen when a marriage is solemnized and the big fat Indian wedding has somewhat, I don't know, they probably don't remember attending them. Marriage, when they say, is obsolete. Who are they talking about? Which is this class? Are they doing it inclusively with the entire society? All social classes? Across society? Across all income levels? Or are you in your multi-storied buildings, in your bungalows, and you have a decision to make of not marrying? I have spoken to a number of NGOs that work with early marriage problems. And this is one of the problems that Indian society is facing. Girls are married off at a very early age, obviously because their parents believe in the institution of marriage. And why do they believe in the institution of marriage? It could be wrong. As Dr. Jairam has said, they think it is safe and secure. There is a lot of problem. I've spoken to a number of girls on the fringes of society and on the fringes of the urban scape. This definition probably works for one very small demographic group that is urban, educated, and financially very stable. They are the ones who are taking decisions of not to marry. Now, on a more lighter note, at Cannes, the sartorial decisions of celebrities were very much in the press, in the media, and among common people. What else made the cut? The other thing that made the cut was the red color in the parting of a hair of one celebrity actress from Bollywood. And that took the press by storm. And everybody started asking, is she married? Is she not? Has she divorced? Has she divorced? She's not married. Why this interest in somebody's marital state if marriage has become so irrelevant and you're not bothered? You are bothered. That is why you ask these very definitive questions. I'm going back to Jane Austen's line. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a man with a great fortune is in the want of a wife. And June 2025, Simon Fraser University convocation, and the lady chief guest, who is herself an oncologist, the first advice she gave the students, graduating students in British Columbia, don't marry the don't marry the person you can live with. Marry the person you cannot live without. Now, and there was a lot of applause. My point over here is, even now, if Jane Austen said that in 1813, when marriage was at the center of existence, 2025, somebody is giving equal advice to a class full of graduating students. That means it is not obsolete, whatever the opposition says. Marriages are taking place every day. I'm now going to get into business. I'm not going to go into social, medical, whatever problems. Business. What happened in 1996? Before that, Telegraph is here with me. Telegraph has 2 pages of brides wanted, grooms wanted paper being published every Sunday. You know those homely, comely girls wanted, and boys must have houses and 5-figure salaries kind of. These advertisements come out, and they've been coming out for about 4 decades now. And has the newspaper stopped publishing? No, because people are coming up with advertisements to put into the paper. So there is a client, and the newspaper people are not just, charitable organizations. They would not have saved those pages had people not put in advertisements. So people are getting married. People are thinking of marriage. So when the first speaker said, the choice, there is choice. That nobody's forcing everybody to get married now. But most people, and I have noticed, people are going to say I'm being very frivolous. People start with a friendship. It can be a situationship. And then it moves on to a relationship. And all these ships, somehow or the other, after a couple of years, come into the harbor of matrimony. They sail and sail and sail. It's a question of time. I recently got so many invitations for weddings that are taking place after having been in a relationship for some time. Let us look at a newspaper item that came out in 2022. This was the Times of India. 2nd January, they said in the state of West Bengal, there were 1.8 lakh marriages. This was on account of the COVID, because in 2021, there was a window, very small window when people could have these, gatherings. We find that people who wanted to marry in 22, they also were apprehensive that you will have another wave, and we won't be able to get married. So they brought their wedding dates forward, and 2021 recorded the highest number in a single year in contemporary times. There was a rush for getting married. Is that the sign of not believing in the institution of marriage? I don't think so. 1996, this whole matchmaking thing went viral. Shadi.com came into the play. Shadi.com, Bharat Matrimony in 2000. They have a phenomenal base of clients. So all these clients, who are they? You, me, my neighbor, people we know. And their business, there has been a proliferation of branches. First in one city, one branch, then many branches in the same city, and then many more branches in many more cities. So what is happening? The client base is going up. Why? Because people want to marry. So that is why they're going into these matchmaking places. Mind you, these are not dating sites. They are not only going for relationships and companionships. Ultimate aim is to get married. If they had really thought that marriage was obsolete, would this business flourish? Thank you.
Kaveri, well done, well done. Kaveri, there is one information I want to share with you in public, and probably the other in private, but the microphone betrays me this evening. The public information is something like nearly 1 crore marriages happen in India every year. And what I have my eyes focused on is entirely different, because the turnover of the wedding industry is gradually reaching the turnover of healthcare. Right. Now, how do I become a part of the system? Is it by serving food or getting married again? Is an entirely different question. But I think there is a great turnover competition between these two industries. And for those doctors who are threatened by obsolescence, there is still an option. And the other point, with Telegraph being there, I don't know, yes, Telegraph will take generous note of this, that columns are appearing for senior citizen liaisons, right, in the matrimonial. They are. So just to share between you and me, there is still hope in life. Thank you. Right. And on that note, from Kaveri, you see, I've never come asked to go to any filmy kind of gatherings. Once in a while, in recent times, I was offered a kind of a bit role, and many of my friends who went to see the movie winked and blinked and winked, and they missed the scene, right? So on that token, and couple of times, couple of my friends have become very good film directors, and on 3 occasions, I have been offered to play the role of either somebody already dead or dying or emaciated. Because they said, you're a doctor, you've seen so much of death. So, we can rely on you to give a very authentic disposition of the same. And I've never trusted them ever since. And that was a note of finality to my silver screen aspirations. But this evening, we have a young man, so clever, intelligent, articulate, and the youngsters of his generation is keeping the energy alive, both on the Bengali stage and the Bengali screen. It's ever so gratifying to have with us. Ritobroto, there you go. Come on, hit the ground running.
Hello, good evening everybody. Good evening to Moderator sir. Good evening to my fellow speakers for and against the motion, and good evening to the one present today, all of you who came here today. And possibly if I'm not mistaken, there's a 99% chance that I am the youngest in the house today, right? I guess so. I may be wrong, but I guess I'm the youngest, and for that, thank you so much, Tolly Club.
You still get the same time to speak, don't worry.
Oh, yeah. But thank you, Tolly Club, for organizing this. I think it's a very important discussion, and it has been one that I have been talking about for a very long time, along with my parents, with my family, with my other friends. And I'm really glad that we're doing this here today, where we can openly discuss about it. And frankly, the opposition has made it a little easier for me, because everything I wanted to say, they have already said, and you have laid the ground for me to, counter them. And I will do it very generously, because I, as a representative of the younger generation, of the present generation, who are in their mid-20s or early 30s, who are supposed to get married, I am seeing this firsthand. I'm experiencing this firsthand. So I would bring to you a few perspectives, and those perspectives are from different kind of, upbringings and different kinds of angles. So my first angle, or my first perspective, is someone from the younger generation. So whenever we go to a marriage or a reception or any function or a family gathering, you have seen it, all of us know it. I'm sure all of you have faced it in your day, in your time. You still face it, maybe some of us, like I face it all the time, my friends face it all the time. We have seen this scene in movies, we have seen it in web shows, in serials, we have heard about it in comedy shows, and we have also read about it in books, is that whenever you go, you are there with a plate full of rice and biryani, and your relative comes up to you and says, oh, you're next, when are we eating your marriage? And you're there awkward and standing with a mouthful of biryani and your plate in your hand, and you're like, how do I answer to this? I don't want to answer this. And you just avoid it with a smile, or you say, soon enough, thank you very much. Or you're just standing there and clicking picture with the beautiful bride and groom, and suddenly a relative comes up and says, oh, you're next, we are clicking a picture with you. And there again, with the camera facing you and all the other relatives watching you, and you're standing beside the bride and groom, you don't know what to say. Now this is a joke that has come up very lightly, very casually, but this is where I draw the line. Just because this is funny, just because this is casual, nobody is allowed to cross that line. We when we are institutionalizing marriage and making it something very compulsory for our structures, for our familial structures, we often cross a line. We do not know when a person is ready to talk about it. I may not be ready to talk about my partner. I am not ready to talk about when I want to get married. Maybe I don't want to get married, but I am not at the leisure of speaking about it with you or with other people present. Now, this is the space which I want to highlight, is that crossing a line, not understanding boundaries, that has been going on. This is a very, very important point which so many people from our generation constantly face. The next pressure is not just familial. Other speakers have spoken about familial pressure. I'll not highlight that, but I'll talk about a different kind of a pressure. Since I'm from the entertainment industry, I have seen that for the last couple of years, 5 years at least, or 10 years maybe, for the last decade maybe, celebrity marriages have become a thing. Like the celebrity marriage is an extravagant affair which is commercialized, which is where a film is made out of it, where there are so many things which are exactly given as, you're there, you're watching your favorite celebrity get married, and there's the pressure that you need to imitate that marriage. You need to dress in the same way your favorite cricketer or your favorite movie artist or your favorite model got married. You need the same lehenga, you need the same menu, you need the same venue. Now, what this causes an immense economic draining. My friends who work tirelessly, people I know, my seniors who work tirelessly just to achieve that dream or that dream wedding, they completely drain themselves out. Whatever they have earned, they go all in and spend all their savings. For what? For perfectly aesthetically beautiful, Instagrammable pictures where I get just the validation of people on social media. And that is all there is. And slowly, because I have seen so many of my cousins get married, they're all young, and I have seen the love, the affection slowly fades out, because there are so many other things. You need to shoot your mehendi reel, you need to shoot your sangeet reel, you need to shoot your shidur pora reel. So many reels, you are shooting it for somebody else to watch. When will you enjoy your own marriage? Now this has been something which has been hyped by the media. My fellow speakers from the other team were speaking about why media still covers, because this is a very flourishing business, and exactly, yes, this is a very flourishing business. There are so many people who are just looking at, oh, that glitz and glam of it. Now coming to a completely different point, like my fellow speakers from the other team, they mentioned that it is just us. It is just people who live in multi-storied flats and bungalows and houses. We are thinking about it. And that is where I would like to point that no. There are so many people in so many remote areas of this country who do not have the choice to say no. Where marriage is such an institution, you must have heard about this Bengali, wonderful Bengali phrase, Janmo Mrityu Biye Teen Bidhata Niye. So you are born and you die, and in the middle you just get married. Whatever else you need to do, you will have to do it, and you don't have a choice to say no, because patriarchy and violence are two institutions which have collaborated successfully with another institution called marriage. Because anything which is beyond heteronormative is either violated or looked down upon, or there patriarchy and violence and oppression collaborate with marriage just to say that this is normal. And in India, we have so many cases, such cases where the idea of sanctity is so important, but you are not allowed to talk a word about anything that is going wrong. For us, anything which is beyond heteronormative, for the female counterpart, it has to be violated. And for the male counterpart, it has to be silenced. Because for the male counterpart, we cannot go all out, or we cannot call out their narrative. And then comes in another issue, which is how in our society, the female counterpart is always held responsible for everything. For the female, it is immense pressure, because I have seen my sister getting married. Everything comes upon her. And to be unmarried and to be child-free by choice, for us who live in an urban society. I am sure, and I have seen this so many times, I wish this won't happen again. We appreciate it on the face, but when we turn around, we say, oh my God, she's still unmarried and she's still child-free. And in the rural segments of this country, it is still impossible. So I don't think I would genuinely endorse something, an institution which collaborates with violence and patriarchy on a regular basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebuttals. Thank you. Mind you, in these days of Donald Trump, we did make a little age allowance, and you and I will have to conclude the deal after the debate, right? Okay. So on that note, his first reference to biryani stimulated the appetite. And you're absolutely right, things being enacted in the social media. But Rebuttals, we are mere mortals. Over the last few days, you had Jagannath 1.0 from Puri and Jagannath 2.0 from Digha fighting it out in the social media all the time. So I don't know. I mean, is there I think there is a divine version of meter right now, because all the other, how many are there? Some 1,007 other gods are feeling tremendously left out. So let us see, we need, probably Starlink will change the equation, because since the connectivity comes from space, so I think there will be some divine platform where the other 1,000 left out members of our divinity can find their social media expressions. But yes, social media is important. Important sometimes, as you clearly said, in a very wrong kind of way, so for mortals and so for the divine. And we now have coming to the podium one who has been speaking regularly with substance, flair, and eloquence in our debates for a long time, a scholar of law, and currently advising them on law and knowledge, where we may see a little bit of contradiction, because to me, law is all about quarreling. And coming to the podium today, right now, is our very own Deboshi Borat.
So I'll do the regular thing. Am I audible? I guess I am. Yeah, I can hear myself. Respected Chairperson, sir, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know that I had to make this clear, but it seems it has to be said. Marriage as an institution has lost its relevance. That is the motion which we are opposing. It seems like for the last two speeches, the proposition has been assiduously making our case. So let me clarify, because I am in the opposition. We are not debating whether marriage is good, bad, or ugly. We are not debating whether marriage as an institution should be relevant, should be more or less relevant. We are dealing with what it is today. So we have to ultimately rely on that dirty thing that all of us on WhatsApp University like to avoid: facts, empirical validation. In fact, to be frank with you, when I first heard this motion, I was feeling bad for the speakers who were to speak in the proposition. I couldn't for the life of me imagine what they would talk about, what level of debauched derangement, delusion, or demagoguery they had to concoct to defend this outrageous motion, which has no bearing in fact or reality as we know it. And here I find myself sitting across the dais, a group of privileged men, no less, a group of privileged men sitting in a privileged bubble in India today, saying that marriage is irrelevant. In a country where facts show 99% of women under the age of 40 and 98% of men under the age of 44 have at least been married once. You can do the math to figure out how many people, even if they delay marriage, eventually marry. We are not debating about whether people defer marriage, and that means that marriage has become irrelevant. There's no basis, there's no logical continuity with that hypothesis, flawed as it is. This is a country, by the way, contrary to cosmopolitan gossip, still has the lowest divorce rate in the world, less than 1 in every 1,000. This is a country which, as Mr. Moderator sir had already pointed out, has 1 crore weddings every year, which is more than any other country in the world. This is the context in which these august honorable gentlemen are proposing that marriage is irrelevant today. The marriage industry, as my colleague before me spoke out, is an industry. It is worth 130 billion US dollars, employing 130 million people. Does this industry seem to be something that is irrelevant even today? This industry creates an atmosphere where the average Indian family, which is poor by the way, spends more than 3 times their annual household income on 1 single wedding. And just to give you context, that amount is less than half of what they spend on their child's education across 18 years from preschool to graduation. Does this show a loss of relevance? The country has made its priorities very clear. And these are just the fun facts, by the way. The proposition would like you to believe that marriage is not relevant anymore in a country where marital rape is still not a criminal offense. Why? Because the central government was forced to intervene in court and make the argument to make its constituents happy that no, to criminalize it would be too harsh of an offense because it would potentially disrupt the institution of marriage. Marriage is so irrelevant in this country, apparently, that nearly 25% of all young women are married off under the age of 18. And India has 1 out of every 3 child brides in the world. This is apparently the context in which marriage is irrelevant. My fellow colleague spoke about privilege, and the proposition's supposed defense of this motion reeks of it. Marriage is apparently irrelevant in a country where even today, more than 90% of marriages are arranged by parents, where 95% of all marriages involve dowry, despite this institution been made illegal since 1961. This is a country where both personal and secular laws, religious conventions, societal expectations, socioeconomic realities, patriarchal norms all favor the institution of marriage, disproportionately favor married people, raising children, basic legitimacy or respect. This is a country where to even stay unmarried is to make a political statement, as if you're making a whole scene, being a drama queen. And I say this from personal experience, by the way, like the first speaker from the proposition. As a single 40-year-old man, I come from privilege. I've heard from my colleagues who are women, it's far more difficult, far more worse for them. And I can't even imagine what it is for the multitudes of rural or working class women who choose to, or unfortunately for them, cannot marry. That is the relevance of marriage in society in the present context we find ourselves in today. This is a country where same-sex couples still fight on, despite severe obstacles and humiliation, to secure this right for them. Why? Because according to them, marriage is the only way and the best way to dignify their union. Does this seem to you like some sort of an irrelevant institution? This is a country where a person's marital status, like their religion, is something that is not just a piece of information on legal documents, but of widespread scrutiny, whether you are the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister. Apparently, marriages are irrelevant today. The befuddling logic of this proposition, ladies and gentlemen, is like saying, since we're a modern, progressive society today, because we are more educated, religion has become irrelevant. Like religion, marriage is highly susceptible to change and can modify itself as it has through vicissitudes of time and eras. It's like saying because family sizes have shrunk, families have become irrelevant today. Because fertility rates are falling, children have become irrelevant today. Sexual reproduction has become irrelevant today. It's as ridiculous and delusional as saying all that. To be fair, ladies and gentlemen, I commend my opponents. My opponents, as I'll just end in 30 seconds, sorry. My opponents have been defending the indefensible. They've done a very good job. They've obviously laid it out laughably, pitifully, and poorly. But to be fair, that is the only option they had on the table. And it required a whole lot of creative arguments.
Devoshi, we have an injunction on the time coming up.
Can I end this sentence? Yeah. It required a lot of creative arguments born not out of truth, but just to make a point. A lot of creative adventurism, as well as some sort of self-imposed schizophrenia to make our case instead of making their case. No wonder they chose a lawyer, a creative designer, a psychiatrist, and an actor as the proposition. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Devoshi, you did very well. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And you really hit it where it hurt. And it should. It should. Because for all these monthly fudgings around of the GDP data, a country which is struggling to go above 24,000 rupees per capita income per year spends 24 lakhs on an average spend on a wedding, honestly speaking, has got a lot to think about. And we as doctors should really, call out the devil where it exists. The two single most important causes for what is called crippling indebtedness in India. Yes, humongous marriage-related expenses is there, but is not the first, it is the second. The first cause of crippling indebtedness that pushes a person down the socio-economic strata is falling ill health care. That is where we are, and I think that is what the Tolly debate can debate on the next time. And on that note, we have a person who's coming up next, who really has a lot to offer in terms of new perspective. He has been very active in the domain of Kolkata Pride, in the domain of designing, a man who has his own approach to life, his own prism through which he has seen both perspectives and creativity. So, Neil, welcome to the podium.
শুভ সন্ধ্যা আমি এই স্টেজে ভীষণ বাচ্চা বলা যেতে পারে কারণ কি আমি ডিবেটে কোনোদিন পার্টিসিপেট করিনি আর সেই জন্য কোনো কিছু ভুল ত্রুটি হলে আমাকে মাফ করবেন প্লিজ ফরগিভ মি if I go wrong somewhere in this debate but I wanted to point out immediately to our last speaker at one point of time all the people at our table was thinking was he speaking for the motion or against the motion. Because did he just defend marital rape? Did he just talk about queer marriages and rights? And in the context he spoke, I was super surprised. So,
Neil, just use one of the things. And
yeah, I think this is better for me.
Don't get surprised because great minds think alike. Yes.
I am carrying a bit of notes because you will be surprised. Today somebody actually asked me, what are you doing here? Truly, what am I doing here is surprising because I come from an industry which runs the marriage show. And if I have come here today to speak for the motion, there must be something I'm deeply disturbed about. And most importantly, let me tell you, all of the speakers on the other side against the motion are worried that it's obsolete. Please read the line, marriage as an institution has lost relevance. We never told you it's obsolete. They are worried it's obsolete. We are talking about the term marriage, this marriage institution, and its relevance. What is happening today, is it relevant or not? That is what we need to talk about and really, really focus on. I'm going to quickly, in this motion, in the fore of the motion, I will tell you that this institution is structured and created by society to regulate human behavior. And especially marriage in Indian context is not just a private bond between two people, it's socio-cultural, economic framework. As we say, thousands of crores are spent. But all of it is rooted in caste, patriarchy, religion, and most importantly, control. Who do you control? You control the women. So, unfortunately, this is what marriage and the institution has come down to. But more importantly, all of this is also related to this control to let some people in the society to have their rights or not. You very proudly said, if the queer people, I from my lived experiences, I'm telling you, we really don't want marriage rights. What we want is equality, right to civil partnership. But if you think this marriage as an institution is what we are running after, are we crazy? Half of the marriages in the world are ending in divorce. In India, in a state like Karnataka, there is like 66,000 people have filed for divorce. Bengal is almost in the second rank in the whole of Indian ranking for divorce filing, especially in urban areas. 30 to 40% of divorce cases have come up over the last 10 years. It has increased in that rate. My point, this patriarchal tool which we are going on using is, it was never designed for equality. It was designed for oppression. And despite all our progress, women in marriages are expected to shoulder the bulk of domestic work, childcare, emotional management without recognition of choice. And these are the same people, what you're talking about that they are living, this 98% wants to get married. Remember, they're living their marriages all in silence. As Dr. Jayaranjan said, they are already divorced, but they don't have means to leave this marriage. I will give you a very small personal experience. My mom is a very strong lady. Just before my cousin sister's wedding, she's telling 4 days before, Shon, you still have a chance. Don't get married, live together. Here is this woman who was in her 45th year of her marriage. Incidentally, Dr. Sharkar operated on my dad, increased another 10 years of his life. So thank you for that. But after the 50th anniversary of my parents' marriage, my mom actually turned towards me and told me, listen, don't think that this 50 years means marriage for me has been the best thing which I have done. If only I was not controlled, if only I was given the liberty, I would have opted out. I would have lived a different life. It's not that I'm complaining about your dad, but I know as a woman what it means to be stuck in a marriage where there is no liberty. None of that happened. She's the most independent woman, but that made me think that is the, this whole institution of marriage is still relevant. I will connect it with the queer exclusion assimilation. As I said, this institution controls who is allowed or not allowed. Yes, I'm from a privileged class. I come from a privileged background. Speaking to you in English, I don't think even 5% of this country speaks in English. And today I'm here making this point, saying as a queer person, I must also speak to how this institution has systematically excluded people like me. In India, marriage equality is still a dream. Queer love is often invisible in the legal system and in marginal cultural imagination. So, sir, I don't know where did you talk about the same-sex love. You must be still stuck in the Christian era or in the British era where, or another country where you said the same-sex marriages are legal. We are in this country, it's not. We are still stuck and left with the residues of the Christian era, or I shouldn't say Christian era, but the British, the colonial overcast. Alternatives are the reality. We live in together, we choose our families, we choose co-parenting arrangements, solo parenting, polyamorous families, and chosen families. This is the alternative, and this is what we are talking about, that this institution needs to update. We are not telling you that you're obsolete. You are yourself using the term. We are talking about to be relevant. You have to update yourself, and that's what this institution needs to do. The numbers I've already spoken about tells a story. So finally, if I may speak, marriage, which once served a purpose of protection and social structure, economic stability, but in today's world, we have laws, cohabitation rights, evolving social norms. So I ask again, no longer does our values reflect. So isn't it fair to say that this institution has lost relevance? Love is not irrelevant. Connection is not irrelevant. This we have still seen, and we live with each other in this society. I actually live in a very, very interesting family. I have to speak because I live with my ex who also lives with his partner, and I live with my partner. That's how we have created bonds. We have our chosen families, and I think the institution of marriage today is alarmed that people are living beyond this institutional rules, and we are here as rebels to ask and shake up the system to say, hello, come on, update your system, because otherwise your ram will come crushing down. Thank you so much.
Neil, well done, well done, well done, well done. Please take a seat, You see, about 1 million cardiac procedures are done in the world annually. And with the success of cardiac procedures every year, what has actually the society has seen is a great increase in divorce rates beyond 60 and marriages beyond 70, right? So that was not what the procedure was intended to do. We wanted to improve physical rehabilitation. We wanted to take away the chest pain. We did not intend to improve on the other performances that a person may be very keen on. But I think, though there has been not a great abundance of literature on that front, but I suspect we have. And that is what the social statistic of this era shows us. As the debate heats up and comes to almost its conclusion, we are not just seeing conflict, but we are seeing a lot of convergence. And the next speaker, a journalist whose work has really spread out across the spectrum, and amongst her most popular work has been The Confessions of a Criminal Lawyer. I think after this evening, she will start straight away working on The Confessions of a Divorce Lawyer. And on that point, we welcome Ms. Amrita Mukherjee. Amrita, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Yesterday, when Vishnupriya called me for this debate, I was...
Amrita, please adjust the mic a bit.
Yeah.
Go
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was very nervous because I just got one day to prepare. But now, after I have come here, I'm really enjoying this. We are having a wonderful debate. Thank you for making it so interesting. I'll start with talking to Shayok, who said that, marriage in the current context doesn't work. You can hear me now? Yes. When I met my husband, he was 29, I was 26, and he was a committed bachelor at that time, and he said that he'll never get married, but we got married within 4 months. So if you meet the right person, you never know what kind of decision you'll take. And from my personal experience, Rito Broto, I understand that marriage is a huge financial pressure. People do go through that, but it's your choice how you want to get married, you can lead and not bow down to the real culture, to the ostentatious marriage culture. I got married 24 years back with one sari and one piece of jewelry. And I think I didn't want to put a pressure on my parents for a huge wedding, and I funded my own marriage. So it's been 24 years since then, and it's like I feel that in a marriage, through your marriage, you can lead, you can show the world what partnership means, what friendship means, what freedom in a marriage means. As right now I was talking to Kaveri Di, and both of us, I got married at 26, she got married at 22, and we did have controlling parents who wanted us to do, you know, the things they wanted. But we found our freedom in marriage. So it's unfair to say that every woman, all women, yes, we come from privilege, we are educated, we can take our own decisions, but it's unfair to say completely that you're stuck in a marriage, you cannot take your own decisions. There are a lot of, I can see a lot of people here and who I'm sure will agree with me that marriage can help you grow together, it can give you companionship, it can give you partnership, and most importantly, in today's world, Indian marriages are about two people, but then the families, the kids, the relatives are all involved. So you might think that it's a pressure, or you might think in a positive way that you have so many people to lean back on. Like I feel personally, I have, through my husband's relatives, I have gained more family who are always supportive, who are always there for me. And we've lived, as Neil was saying, you know, like your family dynamics you were saying. In my family, I have lived with my parents, my father, my mother, and with my mother-in-law under the same roof for years. And we have gone through the COVID lockdowns in this situation and post-COVID situations. And I must say, it's not easy, you know, handling so many elderly people. And we are just the two people, like we are running a well-oiled machine. It's something like that. We have a child in the family also. But if you want, you can do it. And instead of thinking that, oh, it's so stressful, because my friends always kept telling me that, oh, you are crazy, you are doing this, you brought everyone under the same roof, and they are like, every day you are catering to their whims. But we feel that we have all grown together, learned tolerance, patience, and it's also, end of the day, my relationship with my husband has become stronger. We have realized that how much we are capable of. And that's the things I want to point out is, it's on us to create healthy marriages. Because it's very easy to say, oh, my marriage is not working. And yes, as Mr. Ram pointed out, there are people, I have friends who do feel stifled in marriages, they feel stuck. But what would you look for? Like, is it always like looking for a way out? Or is it always like sorting out your differences? What is your option? Like, what you want to look at? You have to realize that. And you know, another aspect in marriages that people are constantly talking about, and I hear a lot of children talk about, is like, parents are fighting all the time, and we don't want this, you know. Fights are normalized in a marriage. And once I had gone to interview writer Suchitra Bhattacharjee, and I had told her, you know, my parents fight a lot. So she told me, no, you know, it's their way of showing love. It's how marriages are. But I was in my 20s then, and I thought that, you know, my marriage is not going to be like this. I'm not going to fight, and it's not going to be a shouting match all the time. I can make it more simple. Yeah, you can sort out things over a bit of coffee or a bit of beer. And it's possible to work out marriages, and it's, instead of going to the negative perspective that, you know, it's not working, the focus should be on how we can make things work. And so, interfaith marriages. Dr. Ram was talking about interfaith marriages. I have friends who have very successful interfaith marriages. And I think it's like we are looking at one perspective, and there will always be another perspective to it, right? So that's the thing. And lastly, I would say that, as I said earlier, that it's on us to create healthy marriages, and it's for us to show the children that, okay, you can be in a secure marriage, you can be in a good marriage too, and you can have faith in the institution of marriage. And lastly, what I would want to say is, you are talking about live-in relationships. Times of India did a survey where 1 out of every 2 Indians said they want to live in, but that is before they get married. So the end goal is marriage. So marriage still stays relevant. Thank you so much.
Amrita, very well spoken. And all of us were absolute all ears, and we are waiting for the Silver Jubilee invitation next year. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Well done. The last speaker has spoken, ladies and gentlemen, and this debate is eternal. She ended up with an interfaith marriage. The same Gandhi who in 1930s was walking the length of the country, wanting communal harmony and trying to propagate interfaith marriages, objected 15 to 20 years earlier when his eldest son wanted to have an intersex marriage. The same Rabindranath, when in 1901 Rabindranath writes Noshtonir, that was later immortalized as Charulata. Rabindranath of Charulata, in the same year as the Acharya of the Brahmo Samaj, he is going and preaching to people about the sanctity of marriage. So there are debates within, there are debates without. And this evening, it has been a wonderful debate of 8 speakers, and I think after listening to one another, they are bubbling with points. But I will be tremendously miserly for the sake of time and give you all of you an enormous amount of 120 seconds to make please do not make it like the television 3 seconds. In television, everybody wants to speak for 3 seconds and goes on for the next half an hour. So we will start from Shayok. Shayok, do you want to keep your points till the summing up, or till the summing up? So I think it's fair to leave out people who will be summing up. So Joy Ranjan, from your side, please give us any 2 seconds of any supplementary, 2 minutes rather, not seconds, of supplementary
Right.
points.
You know, I think, you know, I see a lot of people who are harboring false reality, and I was really wondering, I'm seeing in one of my clinics what the opponents were saying, are they in touch with reality? See, the reality is that we are not against love, commitment, relationships, and love. What we are against is the institution of marriage as it stands today in a changing world. We need to acknowledge the fact that social systems adapt, and institutions that don't serve people should fade away. And hence, marriage is slowly fading away. And there was this repeated point that we are kind of urban elites talking in Tolly Club, speaking in English, and we are not grounded in reality of India. But trust me, majority of the rural and urban poor think that birth of a girl child is a curse, and girl children are actually seen as a liability, and it is more of a daughter disposable mechanism right from the point they are born. Their marriages are planned, and how they can be disposed of is the main crux of many lived realities in poor people. Thank you.
Thank you. Keshav, your 2 minutes.
Hello. Yeah, we got that. Thank you, sir. Well, here we are. Let the cynics scoff.
We want a loud note, but not that loud.
No.
Please modify a little bit, yes. No, it's okay. Prasenjit is a very kind-hearted man. Don't worry. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Well, let me try that again. Let the cynics scoff, ladies and gentlemen, particularly Dr. J. Ram. Let Nob O'Neill toast to temporary arrangements and commitment phobia like it was some kind of virtue. But we romantics with brains still prefer to believe in that sacred art of showing up decade after decade for that one special but imperfect person. Because in the end, marriage, ladies and gentlemen, is not to surrender your freedom, it is to give it purpose. Let's be honest, Dr. Ram. Who's going to fight with you about where the remote is when you're 80? Who's going to finish your sentences for you and your bowl of soup when you're 85? Who's going to remind you of your childhood stories when you're 90? And sure, marriage is hard, but so is anything worth building. Democracy, art, a good lasagna. Let me give you this. Have you ever thought about what to name the Labrador who walks the dog in the rain, survived each other's relatives, and still wanted to come back home to that one person? Because in the end, ladies and gentlemen, it's not marriage that's outdated. It's the cynicism that says love can't last. It's about building something real with someone special, brick by brick, day after day, to show up when it's hard, to hang in there when it's uncomfortable. You say marriage is obsolete all you want, ladies and gentlemen. Nob O'Neill just spoke about marriage being a trap. I offer you this, your whole life is a trap. You're born, you pay your taxes, and you die. But somewhere in between, you find that one special person who's willing to share your blanket and your bank account and all the madness of being human. And that, my cynical friends, is no small thing. I think I'll let it go, sir, this time.
Thank you, Keshav. I wish you went on, but time is cruel. And Rito Broto.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the oppositions for being so anecdotal and very less logical, because most of your arguments were anecdotal that how I fit in or people I know fit in, while we were always trying to talk about how the institution is not obsolete, but like my fellow speakers have said, it is losing its relevance, and like Nob O'Neill said, that it has to update or it has to fade away like every other institution. Because something I heard from the opposition was repeatedly that so many people are doing it. Is it not relevant? So many people. It now reminded me of Indian elections, because so many people are going and voting for the parties we have right now. And is it not right? Maybe they are, but are there not people questioning it? So we are actually questioning an institution, and we are trying to identify where it is going wrong and why it is going wrong and why it should be updating more in order to find its relevance. And since India is a democracy, there is a question of choice. The choice is a very important word that we have been using many times. So yes, I completely support the choice to get married in an extravagant way, with a very small wedding with few of your friends and relatives, and I respect your choice to get married. But the other side does not respect always the decision to stay unmarried and stay child-free. There lies the difference of this institution, that you bat an eye at me when I say no, but when you say yes, I congratulate you and I say that may you live happily ever after. So this institution primarily bats an eye on me or some people who, by choice, decide to stay unmarried. Now there's something, I believe there needs, this institution needs a software update just in that line. And anything which is not affiliated to this institution is wrong. It is such a wrong kind of an idea, and you are excluding people. I come from a family where I have seen wonderful arranged marriages. I do not come from a divorce background where I have seen my family members being divorced, but still, I understand the familial and peer pressures. Thank you.
Rebuttals, let's not update the software too much because, you know, I really would hate to see an AI version of an husband or wife or both, right? Fair enough. But on that code, very great ideas, you know, but it's just only our softwares are not getting updated fast enough. Kaveri, I think you are next in the line.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ritubroto, for making the first time you spoke, you made no sense to the topic at all. You flew off the handle and you spoke about, you know, a lot of expenditure.
You are being academically cruel.
So he's friends with all my students, so I think I can do a little bit of correction of his answer paper. Over here, Neil, you know, he talks about wonderfully about freedom of the unmarried, or freedom of the person who hasn't gone under the hammer of marriage. I'll rephrase my sentence. I know a 40-year-old who's looking after her parents and has no freedom. She has not married. So marriage is not the only way you lose your freedom. You can lose your freedom for any other social commitment that you may have as a member of society, a member of a family. So. Then I would strongly object that we did not bring in the word obsolete to the discussion. It was provided by the proposition. You made a mistake, lawyers, sir, brought in obsolete in your conversation. We did not bring it. Maybe some of us may have used it later on because you showed us the way. Because we thought the proposition knew what words were there in the statement above. And lastly, Dr. Jairam, I have an issue with you. I have issues with everybody here. You have given us very good examples, illustrations from your clinical experience of married women who are very unhappy. Have you met unmarried women who are unhappy? You make it seem as if only the married people are unhappy and come to you. There are a whole lot of single people who need your help. Please reach out.
Thank you, House. Thank you for your applause. But in this Kaveri, with this frame of mind, my lips are sealed. I'm not going to take any more issues with her, right? So, you know, I think it requires a little bit of coolant acting right now. So, Neil, your turn now, young man. Hey, the microphone. Yeah.
So,
you are married to the microphone.
Constantly, I see our speakers in the opposition is constantly going on, you know, harping on the same word, obsolete. They use words like survive, outdated, this is trap, freedom. All these words, it's ringing in their bells. My point was not to oppose the idea of marriage. Our point is not to oppose the idea of marriage. We are going on saying to keep it relevant, what all do you need to do? From the time immemorial, which is from the times of Manusmriti, when there used to be 8 kinds of marriages, we have come down to one which is overladen with colonial hangover. They have gone back to their own countries. They have legalized same-sex marriages. They have taken over and created live-in relationship laws to everything. We are still stuck. What we mean to say, to keep it relevant, is let us work towards making the idea of marriage and this institution to be inclusive, to be diverse, to address so many different kinds of people, unmarried, married, separated, single, widows. We don't look towards these issues. We are not saying anybody is unhappy. We are giving you the figures, which is it's required, because that's how, based on figures, you realize what is happening in the country. Because a lot of people, when they live in silence, that it doesn't mean they're living in happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Navanil. Important point. Kabiri. Amrita, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
He sums up.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're talking about figures. We have the figure that 10 million marriages are happening every year. But do you have the figure of cohabiting couples or long-term live-in relationships working? Do we have the stats?
In this country, as Dr. Sharkar was saying, when the figures of GDP is fudged up, what figures will you believe
It's very
in?
difficult.
Would you get real figures out of
Okay,
this?
so
We
I
wouldn't.
just want to know, like, from our life.
You know, because
again,
the trouble is we don't want to count people, we want to count caste. Right. So that is our issue at this point in
Right.
time.
But
Yes.
then there are surveys available on live-in relationships, which I quoted just now. There's one from Times of India. But I don't know. Yes, I'm not against live-in relationships or upgrading a marriage, as we say. But there can be different upgrades to a marriage, like marriages these days don't have gender roles. So that's a huge upgrade to Indian marriages, I would say. And also, around us, you know, marriage is said to give us stability, but around us, how many live-in relationships are have that stability or are long-term? Because here, I can already see in the audience that there are people who are married for a long time, but do we have anybody in a long-term live-in relationship in the audience?
The issue is you don't acknowledge
I
it.
think we will, all dialogues will be friendly and private after the debate gets over. Thank you. So have you made your point?
Yes, I have.
Rita? You have. Thank you ever so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we summon the summing up responsibility of either side, I'm sure there will be people amongst you who are burning to make a point. Now, if you have reached your ignition levels, can I have a volunteer who's going to speak from the floor for 2 minutes? Do you have a little bit of light in the audience? Ma'am, you are? Right. You are a brave heart. Now please come up. Young lady, please. Are you taking the podium depending upon your inclinations?
Absolutely.
Yes. You are, yes.
Absolutely.
For the sake of ourselves, please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Noyana Roy. I'm an AI and art lawyer and the founder of the AI Lobby.
I was afraid of AI all this time. You know, yes, yeah.
We have another friend here who's in the same profession.
Is it? No, because I'm naturally stupid. That's the problem. Yeah, thanks. Please, ma'am, fire away.
As I said, as I'm an AI lawyer and the founder of the AI Lobby, I'm inclined to pay special attention to the words has lost, not what was, what should be, and what can be. As my prophetic friends on the other side have just prophesied an apocalypse. It amounts to saying that a cocoon has lost its relevance because a caterpillar turned into a butterfly and flew away. Transformation of the institution, ladies and gentlemen, is not a loss of relevance, but a stimulus for evolution, propelling freedom. As one who has embraced a failed marriage with pride and a commitment to anti-fragility of the self, individual freedoms, dilution of gender roles, financial independence, and even alternative modalities of polyamorous marriages have not taken away from the relevance of the institution of the marriage, but stimulated a natural transformation of the social and individual thought. Marriage creates a home and an anchor, irrespective of age, gender, or stigma about the past. It's a stimulus for collaborative growth and succeeds when egos are shed. Partnerships over power dynamics. And to conclude, in the words of Leo Tolstoy, it's a choice not of the compatibility, but about what you do with the incompatibility.
Well done, well done. Yes, sir. Well done, Noena. That was absolutely wonderful, and I'm dreadfully sure a speech of that quality, AI had nothing to do with it. Please, take a seat. Thank you. Well done. I think we'll take one more, please, without fighting. Yes, young man, please come, sir. One more, please. Because you see, our blood glucose are falling to dangerous levels right now. So we must conclude soon. Sir, please identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Gurshan Kohli. I'm a second generation member of this club. Please bear with me if I falter, because it takes a lot of courage for someone like me who is now a divorcee to come up this podium and say something. If you all Google the most misused law in this country, you can take your phones out and do this right now. You will come across, it is section 498A, which is now BNSS.
Very true.
Which is that it is primarily for protection of the woman in a marriage. It does not apply to single women. It does not apply to live-in relationships. So, and it came into effect in 1983, where we used to always hear about dowry deaths and brides getting burnt in the kitchen. Today all we hear are men committing suicide. It was mentioned earlier that marriage has given rise to an industry called the wedding industry. It's also given rise to an industry called the divorce industry. Today, being married for 7 years, I can say that no man over here can see a better married life than me. The institution is failing because the laws are one-sided, they're not gender neutral. And if you think section 498A was dangerous, if all the single men just Google BNS 69, you won't sleep easy tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You've made a very strong point, and actually a lot of conversation is happening on that tone. I wish this discussion could go on, but, ma'am, well, I think we can squeeze out those 2 minutes, please. Why not? I think that would be the last one. Ma'am, please, we from darkness to light. Please do come up. I mean, when you discuss marriage, you cannot deny creation. That was how the world started. Please.
Okay, so I speak from a place where I don't talk statistics, I don't talk facts, I talk as a mother. So as
Ma'am, please near the microphone.
As a mother, and on a very human perspective, so I see a generation of kids which have become commitment phobic. My children and all the children around us don't want homes, they don't want cars, and they live very insular lives, and children are being born into that insular life. And what is happening is that loneliness is becoming a scourge. Loneliness is becoming a scourge, and the number of suicides of young kids who've gone up, latchkey kids who have no homes. I think kids, it's very important to have a stable role model. And, not a father who comes in and goes, but I think in the light of the future generation, we need to keep the semblance of some family going. And as a single family, I feel that even a joint family was so much better for creating, sanskar in the kids, of, general ways of behavior. So I'm not talking statistics at all. I'm talking from a place of sheer emotion as a mother. When I see my commitment phobic kids who don't want a house, who don't want property, who don't want a car, and they just want to be on the roll, and they want liquid cash in hand so that they can do what they please. So I think the whole issue stems from there. It's a social kind of a drawback, which is impinging on marriage. And I think it's the way we are bringing up children. They are the AI generation.
Well done, ma'am. I think your point is very well made and very well taken. And as I said, all good things in life must come to an end. And on that note, we have come to the ultimate last 6 minutes of this evening. And we invite the summing up 3 minutes, the last dispensation before this house this evening, Deboshi Borat as a member of the opposition. The opposition sums up first. 3 minutes. And you get ready, get your shoulder and your elbow joints moving because the hour has come. Thank you.
I don't know if you've heard this joke, but I heard it when I was young. Someone says, Dada, apni ki bazare jacchen? Brother, are you going to the market? The other one says, Nana, ami bazare jacchi. Nana, I'm going to the market. And the first one says, oh, tai bolun, ami halo apni bazare jacchen. This debate reminded me a little bit of that. Call me old-fashioned, call me bigoted, but I come from the school of thought that believes words have meanings. One word has one meaning, slight variations possible. Remember when we played Scrabble as kids, perhaps even now, there used to be this blank disc which could be any letter of the alphabet to suit your purpose. For some reason, either the proposition didn't get this memo for this debate, or they thought they'll take the easy way out and chose to completely be blind to the word has and thought, let's make it should, make our life easier for us. I, in the middle of this debate, actually thought maybe I've walked into a different club. Maybe RCGC is having a different debate on marriage. But then I had to look up the motion.
Not many clubs are able to have debates like this.
I really had to look up the motion a few times. Has lost its relevance. I am all for the fact that we can debate about it. I am happy to parlay on whether marriage should be relevant or irrelevant. All the ills that the proposition spoke about, I'm with them on that. That's not what I take exception to. But what are they talking about? We are saying that unfortunately, despite all these options, despite all this wisdom, despite cohabitation being an emerging option, despite there being enough evidence, reality, facts to show that marriage has a lot of ills that particularly disadvantage women, and women in particular, a lot of men as well, both sides. But why? The real puzzle is that not why fewer people are marrying. The real puzzle is why people are still continuing to marry despite all the options. And that's where the nub of this debate is. Marriage has not lost its relevance. Like several other institutions across human history, it's proved to be particularly resilient. It's morphed into several new avatars, trying to adjust itself to new realities, to accommodate new demographic audiences, new participants, who redefine the institution of marriage in their own way. There is not one man and woman union anymore. There is no breadwinner and, okay, the man brings home the bacon or the beef or the vegetables or the paneer and the woman cooks it. We've moved on for that and that's a good thing. But here, they are stuck on should. Please help them out. Thank you.
And how better to end the evening from one young lawyer to the other young lawyer. And the last 3 minutes of this evening before you decide will be Shayok. Shayok, you need to come out with all your guns blazing.
The difference is Deboshi works in transactions and I work in litigation. I know the real aspects of what goes on. Today, if you ask a criminal lawyer in Alipur court, what is the best kind of case for you? He said, Dada, I had a failed marriage. A failed marriage is a case mine of sorts. Because you get a divorce case, a 498A case, a DV Act case, a maintenance case, all in one, custody case, all. They're all of them. We lawyers thrive in these failed marriages. And as a lawyer myself, I can tell you this. Why marriage has lost its relevance? It is because of the fact that it is only compulsion that continues to preserve the institution of marriage. If tomorrow societal compulsion was removed, If tomorrow the taboo against divorce was not there, marriage as an institution would crumble immediately. And the opposition, over the course of their speeches, have proved my point. They have said, oh, if marriage as an institution has lost its relevance, why do people keep getting married? Ha, 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 ha. Well, ladies and gentlemen, marriage as an institution it exists because of compulsion. And that is why it exists today. It survives because of this compulsion. And over the course of our speeches today, we have told you that marriage has lost its relevance. Of course, it is my deficiency as a lead speaker that I failed to define relevance for you. Because I thought we are well spoken in the English language. We know what relevance means. But unfortunately, the opposition does not know what relevance means. Unfortunately, the opposition thinks relevance means obsolescence, that relevance means non-existence, that relevance means popularity. I'm not sure that they understand what we mean by lost its relevance. By lost its relevance, we mean it has lost its appropriateness, it has lost its fittingness, it has lost its charm, it has lost its validity as an institution. And it continues to thrive only because of societal pressures. And over the course of our speech, we have given you enough and more, even the opposition have given you enough and more examples as to why marriage continues to exist in this form, in this manner, because of societal compulsion. If tomorrow we were to accept people in live-in relationships more, people would not get married. If tomorrow we stop having a taboo against divorce, more people would get divorced. And don't think that this is just a new tendency. As the last audience speaker said, it is not a new tendency, unfortunately. Ma'am, you're mistaken. Earlier, when women used to get fed up of their husbands, they used to just put their pillow on their husband's noses while they're asleep, and they would say he died peacefully in his sleep. But that is not the case today. And that is why I am proud to propose.
Can we have some light in the audience, please? Look, so far we always knew, that's fine. So far we always knew you had to mind your words, but right now, when you go to sleep, mind your pillows. Right? Shayok, well done. And if there was ever a passionate defense of the realm, you've done it. But the question remains, what do you, the wonderful audience of Tollygunge Club this evening, have you made up your minds? And this is one topic, this is one motion where we rather not have notas, right? Now, there may be consequences at home if you are sitting as a couple, but I'm sure you are all brave enough to face up to it. And those of you who've started the evening with a quarrel probably have got a crash helmet at hand. Never mind. It's been a wonderful evening. It's been an elegant succession of speeches, each one of them more sincere, more articulate, more passionate than the others. And all of you speakers have done this evening, this debate, proud. Thank you for this evening. And thank you to the Library Society of Tollygunge Club, because many an institution of this city, as you take the photographs of the stage, I will request the photographer to take the photographs of the audience, because these are the real heroes of this evening, because our minds and hearts live on. The time has come, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who have agreed with the passionate plea of the opposition, those of you who disagree with the motion, those of you who think that Keshav, Kaveri, Deboshi, Amrita has convinced you that marriage remains relevant in this era, please put one hand up. we should not celebrate prematurely because that in our state is disastrous. Thank you. Put your hands down. Thank you. And those of you who you think agree with Shayok, Joyranjan, Ritabrata and Neil that marriage in this era of 21st century has actually lost its relevance, put your one hand up. Ladies and gentlemen, the debate has been fantastic, and in spite of a valiant effort by the proposition, the opposition carries the debate this evening. Thank you.
Congratulations to the opposition.
Madam, just one statutory announcement was left because I've got to find my way safely to the car park that I have had nothing to do with the verdict. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hours have passed away, keeping the audience engaged with logic, rationales, arguments, and counter-arguments towards this very contemporary theme of today's debate. Each speaker's acumen of dealing with the motion both for and against was remarkable. Their arguments made us think of the relevance of this motion in the present social scenario. And of course, the session was so well moderated by our esteemed moderator, Dr. Kunal Shorkar. Tollygunge Club conveys heartfelt thanks to each of the speakers for their excellent and well-conveyed deliberations and for their well-constructed, thought-provoking views. Thanks to Dr. Kunal Shorkar for his unique style of moderation, intercepted with wit and humor, all of which made today's debate so very engaging and interesting. We thank President of Tolly Club, Mr. Partha Barman, and CEO, Brigadier Ganapathy, for their support and encouragement. Thanks are due to Mr. Shoibal Bose and Mr. Shudeep Dhara for their administrative support. Thanks to Shukunda and the IT team for all help rendered. Thanks to librarians Pranob and Shuparna, and to the convener and committee members of the Library Committee, to Proshenjit for excellent timekeeping, and of course, thanks to our dear audience, whose participation through observations, questions, and remarks helped make today's event such a success. Tolly looks forward to such and many more events in the future. Requesting members of the Library Committee and the librarians to come on stage for a group photo with the speakers. Thank you and good evening.